Everyone, welcome back to Installation 00 and finally, at long last, a Project MJOLNIR update. I know it's been a long time and I probably should have updated, at least in part, somewhere between the last update, which I think was in October, maybe November, and now. But a lot has happened. Obviously, we had Christmas to sort of get out of the way and everything like that. A lot's happened since. So the last time I spoke to you, the costumer, the seamstress that I had instructed to construct the BDU had unfortunately pulled out, but had given me the contact information for three other individuals or three other companies who might be able to take it up. Now, I chalked up that issue to perhaps my own failing in the way in which I think I articulated the project over to them was. I said that I wanted, obviously, the BDU replicated as close to law accurate as humanly possible, and obviously contained within that would be a heating and cooling system. Now, I think they misunderstood what I meant and assumed I wanted them to create the heating and cooling system inside of the suit when I've already done that. So they realised the material cost and the complexity of a product like that was outside of their capability, and as such, sadly said, no, sorry, we can't do it, but here's some contact information for other people. So that's where we were last time, and I just about printed the Mark 6 helmet from Halo Infinite, the Gen 3 Mark 6 helmet, and we're just starting to sort of test the water for the HUD systems for the HoloLens. That's where we were last time. Now, this is how things have developed. So the BDU, I contacted all three companies that I was given the information for. One never got back to me at all. One did get back to me, but expressed the likelihood was that they wouldn't be able to do it. The last one, after chasing for a little while, we finally had a Zoom meeting to discuss the particulars of exactly how we were going to go about doing it, and the ultimate goals of the product and the project as a whole. And they have happily taken up the project. I have received the quote. In the interest of transparency, it's going to be 7,800 to get the BDU done. And it will be done law accurate, as close as humanly possible. We'll have all the hard points. It will look aesthetically identical. Obviously, we'll have to take some creative and artistic liberties for the lower body, because we've never seen the lower body in gameplay. We've seen the upper body. We see it on Fireteam Majestic. We see it on Spartan Commander Palmer. But we never see the lower body. So there's going to be some degree of artistic liberty that's going to have to be taken to extend that aesthetic style to the lower body. Because obviously we only ever see them with the waist-up BDU, because they're usually wearing combat trousers. I have secured myself some combat trousers that very closely mimic what we see in game as well, just for the aesthetic kind of appearance. But so the BDU is that's going to happen now. The next step for that is I'm going to make a down payment on the work to be done. I will then travel to London, where this company are based, and I will have a body sculpting effectively, where there was discussion of perhaps doing like a 3D scan, but judging by the quotation and the terms used, I'm likely going to be sat in a chair or stood while they slather plaster of Paris or whatever around my body and make a sculpt of me, and then they'll use that to develop the suit. So that's the next steps for the BDU. So the BDU's happening. We're finally gaining momentum with that. Obviously, heating and cooling system is still fully functional, still works, still cools the body to at best about 15 degrees centigrade, averages out around 18 degrees centigrade with a liquid cooling system, and warms the body to 40 degrees centigrade, which is basically like a warm bath. And that's torso-based heating, along with gloves that have carbon fibre heating pads on them, and the soles of boots that have carbon fibre heating panels in them. So heating and cooling system is done. It's fully fleshed out, just because of integrating that within the BDU when I receive it. On the helmet front, obviously, as you know, I finished printing the two halves. Now, the reason why we're doing it in filament to start with is because there's something that a lot of cosplayers will know about is when you get the sort of in-game models, or you recreate an in-game model, it's an in-game model, it's a character model, it's not meant to be worn. So as a consequence, there's either solid geometry inside, or there's no geometry inside. And of course, the realization for cosplayers is that, okay, well, I can take the outside shell and make it, so thick, and then I can print it. I can put like a helmet, like harness or some padding inside or whatever, and then I can wear it. And it's a cosplay. There you go. It's done. That's not what we're aiming to do. We're aiming to recreate Mjolnir as close as practically possible. So we had to go through the very long and arduous process of figuring out how this would work. By generating internal geometry, generating a frame that all of this was going to be based around. There are some concept art cutaways of like the scarred variant of Mjolnir that shows some of the internal structure. Obviously, it's concept art, but I've somewhat used that. Myself and Maker have been tweaking the modelling and everything for all of this duration, and we've come up with a frame that's still a work in progress, and I will show you it now. We've come up with a frame. I'll try not to break it. We've come up with an internal frame for the helmet. Now, I'll have renders. I'll probably put those on the screen in a minute that will show you the actual, working render. But this is the practical application so far with half of the helmet. So you can see the frame. We've generated the frame internally to give structure. Now, there's actually still frame missing to this. We'd started working on a frame that effectively, if you look on the inner surface here, you see where the ear vent is here, and you see this flat panel here that goes right the way up into the crest of the helmet up in here. We're looking to generate additional geometry for that, which will help bridge the gap effectively between here and the crest, the cranial plate at the top here, the cranial frame. You'll notice there's black marks here. When I was taking the support off of this, because it's filament, it's FDM printed, when I was taking the support off, I broke it in several places. So I used liquid resin from my liquid 3D printers, and just cured it quickly with a UV flashlight to still maintain the frame and structure. But this is what we've got so far. So we've got a nice connection at the back here that links the cranial to the rear support structure of the helmet here. Some of the raft is still in this. I've bought a heated knife. It heats to 300 degrees to cut that away and make it much easier. So hopefully future prints will be much better in appearance. Ultimately, this is the purpose of this. We're prototyping and making mistakes on plastic because we don't want to make those mistakes on a metal finished product that costs thousands of pounds to make. I'd much rather spend 30, 40, 50 quid here and there on rolls of filament. So you can see we've also got the Hololens Mount in here. So this will go along the top of the Hololens. These actually these risers go down through some holes, some vent holes in the Hololens. To what I can tell from the specifications of the Hololens and other release information, they're just meant for air circulation and some degree of cooling. Now, the intention is to have this frame eventually machined in aircraft grade aluminium 7075. So what we'll do is we'll actually wrap these in a thermal paste or a conductive thermally conductive tape, something along those lines, so that the HoloLens actually inducts its heat directly to the aluminium frame. Because we're also going to have cooling systems, so we've got a vent up the top here, which will have obviously like little fans like this. So that's just a resin printed cowling that just slots up in the top here perfectly, and would draw air in through this little vent here, which I've already actually excised out in the other half. You can see at the front there. So, and there's also going to be fans at the back to draw air down, and so not only it passes over your head and cools you, but it also cools the frame, and that maintains. We're basically using the frame as simultaneously as a heat sink, which is, we've got to do what we've got to do. So we've still got additional geometry to generate with the frame of the helmet, but we're getting somewhere. And obviously the HoloLens mounts to this. We're also looking at doing like a cradle at the back here to hold the back of the HoloLens, because there's quite a lot of tipping weight at the moment with the fact that the HoloLens's computational system is at the back. And I'm gradually increasing the fidelity of this print with resin components. because one, they print a lot faster. Two, I can work with them as easy as I can work with filament, but I can also then innovate the idea, tweak it, solve a problem, print the next one, tweak it, solve a problem, print the next one. I can just do, whoops, sorry, I'll slap the microphone. I can just do that until the design is as perfect as it's going to be. Then when we've got the final CAD models, they're what gets sent off. So the frame models, they'll all be sent off to be machined in the aluminium 7075. And the shell, when we've finally decided exactly how the shell's going to be, because we're on the fence as to whether or not we're going to do a single unibody. I would love to do a single unibody. Or we're going to print it in smaller component parts that are going to have to be bolted together. But they'll be printed, likely, in titanium via a direct metal laser sintering printer. Or direct metal lasers. Yes, direct metal laser sintering. I always get that acronym mixed up. And then we will have an armoured titanium shell. The finished product will have the armoured titanium shell. There'll be a composite Kevlar soft armour with a shear thickening fluid between it and the frame. On the inner surface of the frame, there will be the hermetic seal that will maintain the atmosphere, that will go down to a sealed neck gasket, effectively. And all the electronics will occupy spaces between the frame and the hermetic seal and various other areas, unless they need to be inside of the hermetic seal, as with the communication systems, in which case they'll go through vacuum rated or hermetically sealed connectors. So that's where we're at with the frame at the moment. There's actually before I do, one thing we noticed actually is, if you imagine we're printing the helmet frame, the helmet shell, in a single unibody, we realised that if we make the frame, initially the intention was to have this entire ring here as a single piece. How would we get that ring, this part of the frame, inside of a helmet with a lip in a single piece? Seems obvious now when we look at it, but at the time it just didn't occur. What the realisation is that where I've cut this piece off here and where we've got the join here, because obviously I had to print it in two separate halves, it would have been manufactured as a single piece. We're actually now planning to have these plates here, this one and this one, will be the end of these two pieces. They'll be manufactured separately, and they'll be connected together with a separator, effectively, and that separator will then rise to the new helmet brim frame that we're developing, and that will rise again to the cranial frame. This is what's been taking up a lot of the time. So, stay. So, BDU is well on its way. Heating and cooling system still works. Helmet frame is being engineered. Obviously, I'm going to have loads of stuff coming up on screen at the same time. And I'm also upgrading the fidelity of all these bits of equipment with resin pieces. So, case in point, the jaw frame I was just talking about there, the separated jaw frame, we now have that printed in a black resin from the resin printer. And I've also already mounted LEDs, high-powered LEDs with heat sinks, because they were overheating and burning out. And I can actually give you a demo of just how bright these things are. I've already put stuff out on social media showing how bright they are, but it always staggers. It impresses me, so I'll just hook these up to the positive and negative terminals. Obviously, this will all be routed within the helmet, or the cabling will be routed within the helmet. The frame is going to be helping in that regard. It'll be a good mounting point for a lot of the wires. And there's actually a button here, a pressure button, that will be mounted inside the helmet. I'm hoping that you should be able to chin, because that's actually said about in the books, that a Spartan can chin certain buttons inside the helmet. Just touch it with their chin and that will activate various things. I'm hoping that's how the torches will be activated going forward. So I think it's off. If I turn the power supply on, yeah, it's off. And then, like I say, you'd chin the button and it would turn the lights on. I mean, they're criminally bright. It doesn't quite get across because I've got obviously the big light. I've got the halo backlight there as well. Oops, loose connection. Careful. It doesn't quite get across how bright these things are, but I mean, the computer, the camera is struggling to focus. I just shorted it then for a second, but we're talking. They are really bright, extremely bright, Again, doesn't quite get across how bright, but I've got other videos. So we've got pieces of the electronics starting to come together. Like I said, that's just the torches, and they line up quite nicely. Once the frame is inserted inside, they line up quite nicely with the torches there. That looks quite cool in and of itself. We've got lenses. I'm tempted to 3D print them at the moment. I've just actually fabricated these myself by taking a high clarity acrylic rod effectively, and so effectively tiny little lenses, and they just slot in place in here perfectly, just the right diameter. We also have loudspeaker systems for being able to talk outside of a helmet. So I've got a little amplifier board here, little audio amplifier board that'll be integrated. We've still got the the filtration systems. This is actually a HEPA class 15 filter. It pulls air in, so as it pulls in from the side vents, which are located here and have their own little vents that attach to it that suck the air in. It goes through tubing and through a solenoid valve, and then goes through the HEPA class filter, class 15 filters, and is pumped to near your mouth so you can breathe in fresh air. And then as you breathe out, so the other one, it extracts the air, puts it through more filters, and then pumps it out of the other side. I've also started printing the Hololens frame in the resin as well. So if I put this down, I can show you. I've still got the Hololens just here to hand. So, as with the white risers that I showed you before, the black risers are now, these are printed in resin. They're now in place. You can see the feet of them through here. So they go up through the cooling ducts inside here to the mounting plate. And the mounting plate then has been perfectly aligned with tapped holes here and in the foot there. And they line up perfectly. It's a very snug fit. I've managed to get the models to such a close tolerance. They fit within within 0.1 of a millimeter. So it's extremely close tolerance, as you heard just then. There you go. So that clicks in place. That's just through friction that's being held in, actually. So because it's 0.1 of a mil. But they can be bolted in place, then that would be mounted to the cranial plate. Obviously that's got its own little drill holes in here. You can see like a textured pattern here. That's from the support raft from the resin printer. That will not be a feature of the final piece when it's made out of aluminium. And of course that would mount inside the cranial frame. But again, we've got this tipping weight because of this unit at the back, so we're going to need a cradle just to hold this up. So it's progressing gradually. To anyone who's worked in product design or anything like that before, it's not like you see in the movies. Like in Iron Man, for example, when it seems like he makes a new suit every other week. This is massively fast forwarding timescales in movies. They do it obviously because you can't just sit and watch him build a suit for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. He might be a genius, but there's a limit to how fast things can physically be made. And when you're making something brand new that hasn't been done before, you're going to encounter problems that need to be corrected for. Whether you're a genius or not, that takes time. So that's what's been happening since October, basically. We've been fleshing out this internal geometry. Really, this first phase at the moment is focusing on the BDU, the heating and cooling system, the helmet systems, and the HUD. On the front of the HUD, we've got another guy on board helping to develop the HUD systems, and we're making headway towards that. I need to arrange a time to sit down and have a proper Zoom meeting or a discussion with him. I might even do it through Discord. Just to discuss the particulars and exactly where I want to go with it and what features I'd like to see on the onset. Obviously, we had the HUD overlay before. We still got the HUD overlay, except I've increased the fidelity of that HUD overlay. So we've now got new new HUD overlays that are based directly off of the Halo Infinite HUD overlay. I've still got huge swathes of sensors and the like in the boxes behind me and out in the outside workspace. So I'm still iteratively developing some of the other systems alongside the helmet, the BDU, and the environment systems. But all focus at the moment has really been on getting this as fleshed out as possible, so that once we're happy with the design, I can send those files off, I can get them machined, I can get them 3D printed in titanium, and then I will receive those finished products, hopefully, by the time I've put all of the electronics internally into the helmet. And then it will be a case of transplanting from one to the other. And then we will have the first fully titanium, fully functional, hermetically sealed, air-filtered, with built-in electronic suite, communications gear, cooling systems, and a functional HUD for MJOLNIR in existence. And that will be used and featured alongside ideally a completed BDU with the hard points, the hard connection points, which I still have the files for, and a built-in heating and cooling system. And then we move on to the next phase. So we're building this almost from the inside out. So then we move on to the next phase, which will be the actual exoskeleton part with all the power articulators, muscle sensors, and all of that. So we've got a battle plan going forward, and that's what's been happening for these months. I'm sorry it took so long to give you the update, but I hope this has been a sufficient update to get you hyped up for Project MJOLNIR again. Again, thank you to everyone for donating to the GoFundMe, and for people who continue to donate to the GoFundMe. I've noticed a few names are currently coming up month on month. You know who you are, evidently. You've been watching and you've been donating every single month, like a lot of money. And I thank you greatly for that. I'm putting it as to good use as I possibly can. Getting materials in and components, and paying people who need to be paid, and getting things sorted. And I couldn't have done that without your support. So I'll slap my microphone again. So again, thank you for everyone who supported. Thank you to everyone who continues to support. Thank you to you for watching the video, for liking, commenting, subscribing, and helping boost it through the algorithm, and sharing it on social media if you'd be so kind. And if you do want to support the project, the GoFundMe link is still live. It's still in the description. And I'll continue to be as transparent as I possibly can about what's happening with that money, where is it going, what it's being spent on, and where our progress is in the great scheme of things. So there we go. Thanks everyone. Take it easy and find peace in the domain. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members: Spartan10148, my Metarch; Dylan, Falcon X003, Kenwood, Irrefutable Justice, Leon, Neek, and Ramiz, my monitors; Alvin, Andrew, Brand, Brian, Cameron, Chris, Darian, Devon, Flaming Halo, Greenblood, Kyle, Legions Lost, Michael, Prophet Bear, Spartan, and Wolf, my sub-monitors; my fleet of Strato Sentinels; my diligent enforcers; and all the other awesome people that have jumped aboard to support the channel over at Patreon. Another shout out to Todd Morrison, my transcendent YouTube member. And just one quick reminder to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord. Much love from 00. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.